Thank you. We've spoken already about development before of housing. We've seen a lot of development on greenfield sites of low density housing, and we have not seen as much development in village and town centers of brownfield sites, presumably because they are less profitable to develop. This has created all kinds of problems for transport, for our infrastructure, the services like utilities, and also for climate change mitigation. Because if you need to travel, there's an increased need for travel, and public transport is much less efficient if it is spread out. How would you encourage a shift to more urban development, and when is the Manx Development Corporation going to play a more active role?
Okay, first. All right.
I'm happy with that. The Manx Development Corporation we set up last year as part of our economic recovery programme. First of all, I can tell you that I'm hugely enthused with the makeup of that corporation, and I very much expect that they will imminently now be coming forward with plans. I hope to bring forward affordable housing units on the old Nobles Hospital site, the old nursing home site up there, so that the progress is being made, and that they are working with the Treasury to identify strategically what other sites government has that can be brought forward to develop. And it doesn't just have to, the great thing about Manx Development Corporation is they're set up in such a way so that either they can work with government to undertake and deliver using third parties, or indeed we could work with the private sector to deliver on some of our brownfield sites and regenerate them, but also bring housing and affordable housing forward on these brownfield sites. In terms of the other matters that you're discussing, how else can we encourage the private sector? I mean, regenerating some of our sites in towns, both in Douglas, across the island, in the north, in Ramsey, are absolutely vital if we're going to move forward. I think that we should be considering as part of the housing brief how this can be further enhanced. There are ways that potentially government can encourage developers onto these sites. We could look at some sort of tax breaks for them to be able to bring more profitability out of the brownfield sites. We know that then they're reluctant to build housing on it, often because some of these sites require specialist treatment, or they're very, very difficult to develop out. And of course, from a government perspective, we too could potentially play a more active role in terms of assessing what our need is as a nation for some of our frontline staff. Because at the moment, with the housing crisis, we're going to really struggle to bring teachers and nurses to this island. So there may well be a need for us to play a more proactive role in terms of developing out some of these requirements, and to get a business plan in place which we can recover our investment through the rental income we can get when we bring nurses and teachers and frontline staff to the island. So I think there's a whole, again, an holistic need for this to be delivered by a new housing board stroke minister, where we can start bringing to the fore the types of policies we need to deliver the solutions that you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, the other aspects to that, obviously, as I've said, is a planning reform. So Mary Portis did a very good report over a decade ago now about urban regeneration, and one of her ideas was empty office space above shops, change that into residential accommodation for people, so people were living in the cities as well as working there, and therefore you cut down on all the things you've said in terms of climate change and travelling. What we have now is because of the shifts over the last 18 months, is probably a surplus of office space. We have more people working from home, more people hot desking. So we need to imaginatively look at repurposing that space for residential accommodation right in the centre of town. We need to get around some of the planning restrictions in terms of having to have X number of car spaces there. If you live in the centre of town and you've got a bike, why should you have to have a car parking space to actually only have in a flat? So there's these imaginative ideas that we can bring in, but if we can try to make sure that the government is flexible enough and responsive enough to new ideas, then I think we'll get there.
All right. We've got another question, but we'll move on because we've got so many questions, haven't we?
Yes.